They think you're dumb. They think you don't see what's going on. They whisper behind your back. They make jokes. They roll their eyes when you speak. They assume your silence is ignorance. But I want to tell you today, God often hides his strongest warriors behind quiet eyes and simple words. The world looks at the outside, the surface, the shine. But God, he sees deeper. He sees what they miss. He sees your heart. He sees the fire you're hiding, the wisdom you're nurturing, and the strength you're storing. And that is where the power lies. You see, some people are loud because they're empty. They need noise to fill the space. They need attention to feel important. But not you. God has been teaching you how to walk in silence, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough not to react. He's been training your hands for battle and your heart for patience. He's been setting you apart, not pushing you down. And the people who think you're less than, who treat you like you're small, have no idea that they're watching the rise of someone called and chosen. Don't worry when they underestimate you. That's part of the process. They underestimated David too. He was just a shepherd boy, remember? His own father didn't even invite him to the anointing. But God said, man looks at the outward appearance, but I look at the heart. And in that heart, God saw a king. In that quiet shepherd, God saw a warrior. And in you, God sees something they don't see. Don't waste your breath trying to explain it to people who are too blind to understand it. There is a blessing in being underestimated. There's power in being overlooked. Because while they are sleeping on you, you're waking up to God's plan. While they mock your simplicity, you are mastering your purpose. While they pretend you're nothing, heaven is preparing your table. That silence you walk in, it's not empty. It's holy. It's heavy. It's filled with preparation. And when the time comes, they won't understand how you rose so quickly. They won't understand how you endured so much. They won't understand how the person they thought was foolish walked out with favor. It's not because you were loud. It's because you were faithful. It's not because you fought back. It's because you fell on your knees. The world doesn't see that kind of power. They don't recognize it because they don't know what it costs. But you do. You've paid in tears. You've invested in nights of silence. You've trusted when it didn't make sense. And now you're growing in secret. You're healing in hidden places. You're rising when no one is watching. Let them laugh. Let them pretend you're dumb. Let them talk behind your back. It's okay, because God is behind your story. He knows when to lift you up, and He knows exactly who needs to see it. Don't try to prove your worth to people who profit off your silence. You are not here to be accepted by them. You are here to be used by Him. And when the time is right, your silence will speak louder than their mockery. Some of the most dangerous people in this world are the ones who listen more than they speak. They observe. They learn. They wait. When the moment comes, they don't need to make noise. Their results speak for them. That's what God is building in you. A life that doesn't need validation. A strength that doesn't need applause. A mission that doesn't require permission. That's why it feels lonely. That's why it feels like no one understands. Because He's not building you for the crowd, He's building you for the calling. And when you arrive at the place they said you'd never reach, when you stand in the victory they thought you'd never touch, when your life begins to overflow with what they tried to block, you won't even need to say, I told you so. You'll just keep walking. Because the truth is, when they pretended you were dumb, God was showing you how to be wise. When they thought they were mocking you, they were really measuring the distance between your grace and their pride. So don't get discouraged. Don't lose heart. Don't try to rush God's process to satisfy man's opinions. Stay low. Stay humble. Stay faithful. They think you're dumb. Let them. Because while they pretend, heaven is preparing, and God never wastes silence. Silence is not weakness. It's not surrender. It's not fear. It is the language of the Spirit. The world doesn't understand that. People think if you don't argue, if you don't shout, if you don't fight back, then you must be confused, timid, or lost. But that's not the truth. The truth is silence is the shield of the wise. When you know who you are and who God is in you, you don't have to waste your breath proving it to people who can't see it. You don't have to shout to be strong. You don't have to explain yourself to be validated. The greatest power you can ever carry is peace in the middle of chaos. And the only way to carry that kind of peace is to understand that your silence is not a gap, it's a guard. You are guarding your heart. You are guarding your mind. You are guarding your destiny. Because not everything deserves a reaction, and not everyone deserves an answer. Some of you have been in rooms where you were misjudged, overlooked, insulted. People thought you didn't catch what they said. They assumed your silence was ignorance. But you heard it all. You just didn't respond. And that's what they'll never understand, how strong you had to be not to speak. You could have clapped back. You could have said what you know. You could have exposed them, corrected them, embarrassed them. But you didn't. Because you know what's sacred is never shouted from the street corner. What is holy is never argued over like gossip. The Spirit of God doesn't always move with noise. Sometimes He moves in a whisper. Sometimes He moves in stillness. And if you want to hear Him, you've got to get quiet. That's why your silence is so important. It's not just to protect you from others. It's also to position you before God, because when you stop talking, you can finally start listening. And when you begin to listen, the Lord will speak. And when He speaks, He won't just soothe your pain, He'll give you wisdom for the path ahead. Don't let people pull you into emotional traps. Don't let their insults become your conversation. Don't allow their chaos to become your climate. You're not built for that. You're not built to react to everything thrown at you. You're built to rise above it. And that rise begins with restraint. Every time you choose not to engage in foolishness, you grow stronger. Every time you choose peace over pride, you win battles no one else can see. I know it hurts when people lie about you. I know it stings when people twist your words, when they misrepresent your heart, when they tell stories that leave out the truth. But don't chase every rumor. Don't try to clean every mess they make with your name, because silence has a way of outliving slander. Time has a way of revealing what noise tried to hide, and God has a way of honoring those who trust Him enough not to fight dirty. Jesus stood before Pilate, and Pilate asked Him question after question. And the Bible says He answered him not a word. He had nothing to prove. Truth does not argue with deception. Light does not debate with darkness. Because light just shines and truth just stands. That's what your silence is doing. It's standing when others expect you to fall. It's shining when others want you to shrink. It's showing strength that doesn't make a sound. There's power in stillness. There's wisdom in not reacting. When people pretend you're dumb, they are not insulting you, they are exposing themselves. When they push you to break your silence, to lash out, to prove them wrong, don't take the bait. Because silence is not for them, it's for you. It's a sacred space between your soul and God's plan. It's the moment where He teaches you to trust Him more than your emotions, to lean on Him more than your logic. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Let them be confused by your calm. Let them try to interpret your quiet. Because while they waste their energy trying to figure you out, you're conserving yours for something greater. You're saving your words for the right moment. You're waiting for the appointed time. You're listening more than you speak, because you're moving with purpose, not impulse. You don't have to be loud to be heard by heaven, and you don't have to be seen by people to be held by God. So walk in silence, not because you have nothing to say, but because what you carry is too valuable to waste on the noise of the world. Let your silence be your shield, because in that silence, God is still speaking. Every insult you've ever received, every time someone laughed at your dreams, every whisper behind your back, it wasn't wasted. Not one word, not one wound. The enemy wants you to think those moments were the end of you. But I'm here to tell you they were fuel. They were meant to push you into purpose. If you don't waste them on bitterness, if you don't let your heart harden, God will use those very moments to elevate you into the place He's preparing. You see, rejection has a way of waking up the calling inside of you. Insults have a strange way of sharpening your vision. When they laughed at you, when they counted you out, when they said you'd never make it, they weren't destroying you. They were chiseling you. And if you had reacted out of anger, if you had let their words poison your spirit, you would have missed the blessing hidden in the breaking. Bitterness is a thief. It steals your clarity, your joy, your focus. It makes you rehearse the same hurt over and over until you forget who you are. Don't give anyone that kind of power over you. Don't let their cruelty become your identity. You are not what they said. You are not the joke they made. You are not the label they put on you. You are who God says you are, and every insult is just another reminder that you're rising higher than they expected. People don't throw stones at what's behind them. They aim at what's ahead. So if you're being attacked, misunderstood, or underestimated, it's because something inside you threatens what's around you. And if you carry your pain the right way, if you surrender it to God instead of lashing out at others, that pain becomes power. That rejection becomes revelation. That insult becomes instruction. You begin to see that God wasn't punishing you, He was promoting you. But it's a test. Make no mistake. Every insult is a test. Will you respond with vengeance, or will you rise with vision? Will you let their words live rent-free in your spirit, or will you evict every lie with truth? Because the moment you let bitterness in, you slow your walk, you lose sight of the promise, you start fighting battles that aren't yours to fight. And God never called you to live like that. He called you to walk in grace, to bless those who curse you, to love those who hate you. Not because they deserve it, but because you've outgrown the need to prove anything to them. That's what it means to be strong in the Spirit. That's what it means to walk in purpose. You could retaliate, but you choose peace. You could strike back, but you choose stillness. Not because you're weak, but because you've already won. And the victory isn't in what you say, it's in what you overcome. Let them insult you. Let them try to break you. What they meant for evil, God will use for good. But only if you don't let bitterness take root. Don't keep replaying the hurt. Don't keep feeding the memory. Turn it over. Give it to God. And say, Lord, I don't want to waste this pain. Use it. Build something out of it. Teach me through it. Because if you let Him, He will. Some of your greatest growth will come from the people who tried to crush you. Some of your greatest clarity will come from the people who confused you. And some of your greatest strength will come from the moments that nearly broke you. That's not by accident, that's divine design. He doesn't waste pain. He doesn't waste rejection. He doesn't waste anything that brought you to your knees, because it was on your knees that you learned to stand. There are blessings waiting on the other side of your restraint. There are doors that only open after you've chosen to forgive. There are breakthroughs that only come after you've walked away in silence instead of fighting for validation. And when you get to that place, when you finally let go of the insult, when you stop trying to prove yourself to those who doubted you, you'll find freedom. You'll breathe again. And you'll realize that what they said didn't matter, what God is doing does. So don't let it make you bitter. Let it make you better. Don't carry the weight of their opinions, carry the weight of God's calling. Walk forward not with anger in your chest, but with fire in your soul, because they didn't break you. They pushed you. And if they hadn't insulted you, you might have stayed comfortable. But now you're rising and their words are only echoes behind you. Let every insult be fuel, not chains. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stay silent and let people talk. Let them think they figured you out. Let them misjudge your silence as confusion. Let them keep speaking, because while they're busy running their mouths, you're running the race God set before you. While they're trying to define you, you're being refined by something much greater than their opinions. You're not standing still, you're standing strong. Because in your silence, you are listening. You are learning, and whether they realize it or not, you are letting them expose more of themselves than they ever could imagine. The world is loud, full of people who think that being heard is the same thing as being wise. But wisdom doesn't always make noise. Discernment doesn't demand attention. Sometimes the sharpest discernment is wrapped in quiet patience. And while others talk, those with understanding stay still and gather the truth. You are not being passive, you're being precise. You're not weak, you're watching. You're not falling behind, you're staying in step with a God who speaks in whispers. There's something holy about restraint. There's something powerful about letting others say too much while you say nothing at all. That's not fear, that's wisdom. That's not silence of defeat, that's silence of strategy. You know what it means to observe without reacting. And in that space, God shows you what's real. You start seeing through the masks. You begin to recognize the motives behind the words. You begin to understand who's for you and who only says they are. And all of it happens not in noise, but in stillness. You've sat in rooms where people smiled in your face but tried to tear you down behind your back. You've heard the subtle jabs. You felt the chill behind their friendly tone. And you said nothing. You kept your peace. And it wasn't because you didn't know what was happening. It was because you knew who was standing with you. You knew that silence would protect your integrity. You knew that God would defend you in ways your words never could. Let them talk. Let them underestimate you. Every time they think you're not paying attention, they give you more clarity. They think you're slow, but you're storing up everything. They think you're weak, but you're winning battles they don't even see. They don't realize that the quiet ones are the dangerous ones because they're not wasting energy trying to be seen. They're storing it up for the moment God says move. There's a reason Jesus didn't respond to every accusation. There's a reason he didn't explain himself every time someone misunderstood him. Because he knew the truth would speak louder than anything he could say. You've got to learn to live like that. Let truth fight for you. Let your actions speak. Let your fruit testify. Let your growth silence every lie without you ever opening your mouth. That's how real strength works. It doesn't perform, it prevails. Don't be in a rush to be understood. Don't be quick to defend yourself when people try to twist your motives. The same God who saw you in secret will reward you in the open. You don't have to campaign for recognition. You don't have to chase down your reputation. Stay grounded, stay focused. Because the ones who speak the most noise are often the ones with the least direction. But you're on assignment. You're not here to win arguments. You're here to walk in purpose. They may think they're ahead of you. They may laugh behind closed doors, thinking you've got nothing going for you. But God is not finished, and your silence is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of something powerful. It's the pause before the rise. It's the moment before breakthrough. And those who mocked your stillness will one day be silenced by your fruit. When they talk too much, they expose too much. When they gossip, when they criticize, when they assume they are showing you more of themselves than you could have ever uncovered on your own. Let that be your confirmation. Let that be your clarity. And then quietly thank God that He allowed their words to reveal their hearts. Not everyone who smiles is safe. Not everyone who praises you means it. And sometimes the best thing God can do for you is let them speak just long enough to show you who they really are. So don't lose your composure. Don't let the noise break your focus. Let them keep talking. Let them keep guessing. Because while they're making noise, you're building something sacred in silence. And when the time comes, your life will speak volumes without you saying a word. There's a kind of strength this world will never understand, a strength that doesn't shout, doesn't argue, doesn't try to convince anybody of anything. It's the strength of a person who has learned how to stay quiet and work. A person who no longer needs to tell people what they're building because they've realized the fruit will speak when the time is right. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need applause to stay faithful. It just stays steady. It stays committed. It stays focused. That kind of strength is rare. And that kind of strength is powerful. You don't have to explain your dreams. You don't have to justify your vision. You don't have to convince people to understand your calling. If if they couldn't hear God when He gave it to you, then they won't understand why you do what you do anyway. Stop wasting your breath trying to get people to believe in something that wasn't revealed to them. Your job is not to be understood. Your job is to be obedient. Obedience in silence is the highest form of trust. It means you're not doing it for attention. You're not doing it for likes. You're not doing it to prove a point. You're doing it because God placed it in your heart. And that's enough. That's what makes you dangerous, not your noise, but your discipline, not your talk, but your consistency, not your platform, but your purpose. And let me tell you something, there is power in staying quiet while you build. People may laugh. They may call you delusional. They may say you're wasting your time. But what they don't see is the fire God placed inside of you. They don't see the hours you've spent in the secret place. They don't see the tears, the prayers, the sacrifices. They see silence, but God sees movement. They see nothing, but God sees everything. And when the time is right, what you've built in the dark will shine in the light. Not because you forced it, not because you promoted yourself, but because God lifts up those who wait on Him. And while others spent their time talking, you spent yours preparing. And when the floodgates open, they'll look back and say, when did that happen? And the answer will be, it happened when you were silent. It happened when you were still. It happened when you were quietly trusting God more than people. You don't need to broadcast every step you take. You don't need to announce every plan. The more you say, the more others can sabotage. But when you move in silence, there's a covering. When you walk in private faithfulness, there's protection. And the less they know, the less they can stop. So stay low, stay quiet, and keep working, because the ones who talk the most often do the least. But the ones who stay quiet are often the ones building the deepest foundations. That's why the enemy wants to distract you with people. He wants to pull you into debates. He wants you to waste your time defending yourself, but don't fall for it. Your energy is too valuable. Your time is too sacred. Every second spent explaining yourself to someone who's not listening is a second stolen from the thing God told you to build. Let them doubt you. Let them talk. You've got something more important to do. You've got something eternal to build. There is something holy about working in silence. It's not just about staying away from noise. It's about staying aligned with heaven. Because when you're quiet, you can hear His direction. When you're still, you can feel His presence. And when you stop talking, you start listening. And listening to God will always take you further than trying to impress man. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You're in training. You're in preparation. And your silence is not a lack of progress. It's the foundation of something great. Keep showing up. Keep doing the work. Keep seeking God in private, because when the time is right, what He's doing in you will speak so loudly, no one will question it. Not because you said it, but because He made it undeniable. So don't get discouraged. Don't get distracted. Don't get bitter. Just keep building. Keep moving. And let your silence become the sound of your faith. There comes a moment when the ones who laughed at you have nothing left to say. Not because you argued, not because you fought back, but because you kept walking. You didn't respond with your mouth, you responded with your life. You didn't waste your time proving your worth, you let God do that in His own time. And when He did, it was undeniable. That's the reward of the silent ones. That's the victory that belongs to those who were underestimated, mocked, ignored, and still kept moving forward with grace. You see, people are quick to judge the seed before they see the tree. They look at the dirt and assume there's nothing growing. But just because it's hidden doesn't mean it's not happening. Growth takes time. Purpose takes root in silence. And while they were busy watching the surface, God was doing a deep work underneath. He was stretching you, molding you, developing something inside of you that didn't need validation from people because it was birthed in obedience to Him. They said you were nothing. They treated you like you didn't belong. They looked past you, over you, through you. But God never needed them to believe in you to bring His plan to pass. And now the very ones who called you foolish have to watch as favor follows you. They have to watch as doors open for you that no one can shut. They have to witness the blessing, the breakthrough, the glory, and they don't understand it. But you do. You understand that the silence wasn't weakness, it was faith, it was surrender, it was trust. God is not moved by public opinion, He's moved by private devotion. You honored Him in the quiet, and now He's honoring you in the open. You didn't retaliate. You didn't scream. You didn't quit. You kept walking. And because you did, now they see a strength in you they can't explain. That's what happens when you let your life speak. That's what happens when you choose humility over pride, peace over payback, purpose over noise. And there's something about that kind of rise that humbles even your enemies. They may never say it out loud, but deep down they know they were wrong. Deep down they know they misjudged you. They thought your silence meant you had nothing to say. They thought your stillness meant you had nothing to offer. But now they see the fruit. They see the impact. They see the hand of God on your life. And they're quiet not because they choose to be silent, but because they can't deny what God has done. And I want to tell you, don't get arrogant. Don't use this moment to gloat. Use it to glorify. Point everything back to the one who lifted you when no one else saw you. Don't waste energy proving people wrong when you can spend that energy praising God for making things right. Because this journey was never about revenge. It was always about revelation. God used their doubt to show you who He is. He used their silence to teach you to listen to His voice. Let this moment remind you of how far you've come. Not because of who you are, but because of whose you are. You were never alone. Even in the silence, even in the darkness, even in the pain, He was there, guiding you, teaching you, covering you. And when the time came, He raised you up not to embarrass them, but to establish you, not to punish, but to position. Because your story was never about proving a point. It was about fulfilling a purpose. Now you walk with a quiet kind of power, a peace that doesn't need applause, a strength that doesn't need to shout. You don't need to explain. You don't need to retaliate. Your life is the response. Your peace is the evidence. Your purpose is the answer. And that is more powerful than any argument, louder than any insult, deeper than any wound. So let them watch. Let them sit in the silence they once assumed was your weakness, because now that silence is filled with the sound of God's faithfulness. And what they once overlooked, they now have to acknowledge. Not because you forced them to, but because God's hand made it impossible to ignore. And when God speaks through your life, no one can silence it. Let your rise be the reply.